Welcome back to App Stories. Today's show is brought to you by Fitbod. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. Hi, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We had a good pre-show. You surprised me again. You're full of surprises.
Well, it wasn't a huge surprise,
No,
but
it wasn't
was
huge.
still, technically speaking, something I kept from you. So
It's true. It's true. There are secrets. We do have secrets, I guess, and this was
Yes.
one of them. It's a secret shopper. Teachy will call you.
Yes.
You're out there doing some purchasing, which that's one of those things you just don't expect from you, is going out and buying gadgets and things.
I know, right? It's not something I usually
It's
do.
like nothing you ever do at all.
John, where can people listen to this free show?
Well, they can listen to it on App Stories Plus by either subscribing to App Stories Plus, which is appstories.plus. You just go there and learn all about how we do the show and release it early every week. And it's an extended version that's ad-free. Or join Club Premiere, which is the top tier of Club Mac Stories, where you get not only App Stories Plus, but all the cool stuff we do at Club Mac Stories, including our Discord community, and a bunch of stuff going on in there with like the AV Club and extra content, all sorts of things. Just go to plus.club to learn more about Club Premiere. All right, Federico, we're going to do a classic pick two. I like to call that. I like how you call this a classic pick two.
It's the return of a classic, a long-time tradition of App Stories, the Pick 2 episode.
Yes, there have been pick threes. I did look back, and there's been more than one
Now,
number.
we don't like to talk about those.
We won't. The classic is the two because it's right about the right length to talk about these apps. And so I think we ought to go, we'll do this round robin style. We'll take turns.
Yeah. Okay, you go first.
All right. I want to start with a health and fitness app called Peak. And Peak's been around for a little while. It's been getting a lot of updates, and there's some interesting stuff in store for the fall. But what Peak does is it takes all that information that's collected in the health app, no matter how you collect it, whether you're doing it at night when you're sleep tracking or during workouts of any kind, it takes it and it creates a bunch of really easy to understand and interesting graphs that break down the data in a million different ways. And there's really two components of this. There's the main app, which works. It's a little bit like an app that has all the widgets from a home screen all in one app. So it's very like tile-based looking, and it can be highly customized in terms of not just things like the colors, but also the data that you're showing. And one of the things that I've been doing a lot with this is I've been looking at trend data because, it's like one of the things that I feel like is a trap when you're trying to get in shape, whether you're trying to get in shape or lose weight or whatever it happens to be, is focusing too much on the last couple of days. How did you do today? How did you do yesterday? What I like to see is that the trend just keeps going up. So you can set it like for trends, you can set all different kinds of trends. You can do short-term ones, which compare, I think it's like the last week to the last few days. There's medium ones, which I kind of like those the best because they look at a current period versus the prior month. And then you can do long-term ones, which is kind of similar to what you see in the fitness app itself, where, what Apple does is they look at 90 days of data, the average over the most recent 90 days, and they compare it to the average over the last year. And so Peak does something similar for the long-term trends as well. But, Peak goes far beyond just trend analysis. It will do that. You can set up ones to show your weight. You can show your most recent workouts, all sorts of different cool metrics that can be tracked. And then you can take those and you can also not just put them in the app in whatever order you want. You can put them on your home screen or your lock screen. Now, I think this app is way better on the home screen just because the home screen gives it more room to breathe and kind of, show off the great design work for these individual widgets and to show more data than you can on the lock screen. So what I've done is right now I've got a special page just for health and fitness apps because I figure that's I'm going to try to get in shape. So I've been doing that. And Peak, I've got a couple of stack in Peak that has right now I've got my walking and running distance medium term trends showing, and also flights of stairs climbed, so that I can see what I'm doing there. So it's, I don't know. I've been really enjoying this app. I mean, to give you an idea, I don't know what else can I tell people about what can be done here. So I've been tracking mainly things like workouts, but you can also track all sorts of different sports as well: skiing, snowboarding, swimming, wheelchair pushes, wheelchair distance, cycling, all those different things. And then you can mix and match these different widgets both in the app and on the home screen. So, and of course, they're highly customizable in terms of what is shown, and also, kind of the data that you pull in for that particular widget. So if you're looking for a way to get very specific fitness stuff on your home screen that you can't do with the fitness app itself, Peak is a really good way to go.
Yeah, this looks very nice. That's a great pick. All right, so my pick is sort of something that I'm revisiting because I was inspired by you, and also is part of the surprise purchase that I talked about in the pre-show. So in this never-ending saga for me, that is choosing a read later system, and maybe I'm coming to terms with the fact that maybe for the kind of person I am, maybe it's just healthy for me every few months to change up how I used to read articles. I mean, like when you think about it, like we change our clothes, right?
That's true.
We go to different restaurants. It's not like you always do the same thing. Is it so bad to do the same thing with apps? I don't think so.
Whether it's email or reminders or
here's an
whatever.
idea for a future episode. Are apps like fashion accessories? Can you change them up every once in a while?
Sure.
But anyway, I thought, hey, it's a good time of year to revisit Matter, the Read Later app. They shipped a bunch of interesting updates lately that I wanted to talk about. And there's one new integration that really piqued my curiosity. So first of all, they have a much better text parser. I saw that they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to support articles from the New York Times, the Atlantic. They have support for Reddit posts, not that anybody goes to Reddit anymore. So they shipped a lot of improvements to the text parser. And recently, they also sort of copied a feature that Readwise Reader had, which is you can save YouTube videos and you're going to get the transcript of the YouTube video in your Matter sort of text view. This is not something that I usually do. Like when I want to watch a YouTube video, I watch the video, but I also understand why for a lot of students, for like academic purposes, this makes a lot of sense. Now, I haven't played around with this. I don't know if the transcript is time synced to the video like it is in Readwise Reader. I thought in Reader that was an impressive functionality, but also something I never use. So there's that. When I opened the app, so I installed the app and I moved a bunch of my existing items from Safari reading list. Something I noticed that they now have in the main queue, they have support for native context menus on iOS and on iPadOS. So when you long press on an article, you get a native menu. You don't get any of that custom stuff anymore. You get a native context menu just like in Safari or Mail or whatever. And in addition to that, something that I saw is that they now also support the standard two-finger swipe gesture for multi-selection. So if you want to select a bunch of articles in your Matter inbox, you just swipe across them. You just swipe down with two fingers and you're going to select them all at once. This is the same gesture that you can use in Notes, in Mail, and in any standard table view in iOS and iPadOS.
Files as well. It works there too. Yeah, I really like their bulk editing tools. I think it's one of the places that Matter really shines.
Yeah, but the reason I'm playing around with all of this again is that it's the summer and I'm gonna spend a bunch of time at the beach. What better place to use a Kindle than at the beach, right?
Sure.
So I was long overdue for a Kindle upgrade, and I recently upgraded to a new Kindle. Let's just say that. We'll save the surprise for the pre-show. Got myself a new Kindle, and one of the things that Matter now has is a native direct Kindle integration called, unsurprisingly, Send to Kindle. It's not the best name, but it does what it does. You can now take any article from your Matter queue and you can send it to your Kindle account. You got to do a bit of a configuration up front. You got to go on Amazon, grab your Kindle email address, authorize the Matter email address to be sort of an authorized sender. But once you do that, you can select one or multiple articles from your Matter queue and send them to your Kindle. After a few seconds, they will show up under personal documents, as has always been the case for these kind of integrations. And I gotta tell you, John, combined with the better text parser that they now have, I've been really liking this integration. Sort of taking an article from Matter, especially long form ones, and reading them on the Kindle. It's very nice. And I also like how if you select multiple articles, they show up as a single ebook in the Kindle. So if you select, say, 5 articles, you get one ebook with 5 chapters in it. One chapter for each article that you sent. Obviously, there's no real two-way integration, right? So if you send something from your Matter account to your Kindle, and then you read the article on the Kindle, it's not like the article is going to get archived in your Matter queue, right? There's no communication between Kindle and Matter. So you got to keep in mind, like, for example, last night I read an article about the new Beat Studio Pro. Now I got to remember that later I got to go into my Matter inbox and mark that article as read because I actually read it on the Kindle. Articles that you sent to the Kindle, they get automatically tagged with a send to Kindle tag in Matter. So that's useful as a way to filter the articles that you have already sent. But otherwise, I mean, what can I say? I'm really liking this integration. And it's perfect for the summer. I'm going to load up my Kindle with a bunch of articles that have been sitting in my Safari reading list, now Matter, for a few weeks. And I'm going to read them at the beach with a Kindle. And it's nice.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that tagging is a good way to deal with what you said, the fact that they don't communicate back and forth, because you can just sort by that particular tag and then mark the ones that you've read off pretty quickly in the Matter app. So that hasn't bothered me at all. I used this probably for the first time about a month ago, and there is a limit to how much you can send to the Kindle in one go. I think it's 25 articles, if I remember correctly, because I sent a bunch all at once, thinking I would just have a long weekend of doing nothing but read on the Kindle, and 25, well, more than 25 was too many. And so I had to cut it back, which was probably best because I didn't read all 25 anyway. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Fitbod. When you want to change your fitness level, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why I'm pleased to let you know about Fitbod, an easy and affordable way to build a fitness plan that's just for you. Everyone's fitness path is different, which is why Fitbod uses data to make sure they customize things exactly to suit you. By using a powerful algorithm to learn more about you, your goals, and your training ability, Fitbod will create a custom dynamic program based on your experience and the equipment that you already have. This is all in an app that makes it incredibly easy to learn how to perform each exercise. Superior results are achieved when a workout program is tailored to your unique body, experience, environment, and goals. Muscles improve when working in concert with the entire muscular system, so overworking some muscles while underworking others can negatively impact results. That's why Fitbod tracks muscle fatigue and recovery to design a well-balanced workout routine. By mixing up muscle groups, exercise sets, reps, and weight over time, Fitbod serves to increase your overall strength and keep your body sharp. This also keeps your gym sessions fresh and fun by mixing up your workouts with new exercises. The Fitbod app is easy to use with over 1,400 HD video tutorials shot from multiple angles to make learning each exercise a breeze. And you can keep track of your achievements and personal bests with Fitbod's progress tracking charts. It also integrates with your Apple Watch, Wear OS smartwatches, and apps like Strava, Fitbit, and Apple Health. There's a lot to like about Fitbod. What I like the most, though, is both the videos that make it easy to learn each of its individual exercises and the fact that it is tailored to your personal needs. It really does a nice job of starting you out on a road to fitness that makes sense for you and your experience level, and then builds from there, which is incredibly important because if you go too hard too fast, you'll end up quitting. But with Fitbod, you can get on that road and stay on that road and get in better shape. Personalized training of this quality can be expensive, but Fitbod is just $12.99 a month or $79.99 a year. And you can get a 25% discount off a membership by signing up at fitbod.me/appstories. So go and get your customized fitness plan at fitbod.me/appstories today. Once again, that's fitbod.me/appstories for 25% off your membership. Our thanks to Fitbod for their support of the show. All right, Federico, my second pick is one that maybe I know I've mentioned this to Club Mac Stories members before, but I don't think I've written about it on the site. And it's a text editor for the Mac called MarkEdit. Now, this is a Mac-only app, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's an open source project, I believe, and this is the free download on the Mac App Store. And it's for a very sparse UI. It's very fully featured. I mean, this is, you and I have talked about this a little bit. It's, we write in Obsidian, but it is kind of nice to have that text editor on the side that you use for just opening one-off documents now and then. So maybe Federico sends me something, a draft that he's working on, and I can open it up in MarkEdit and make some changes or just read it that way without having to, import it into my own Obsidian library. And so that's kind of the use case that I have for this. Or when maybe we have like a guest author on Mac Stories Weekly or something, often I'll open up their articles in this and take a look at them that way. And it's got pretty much everything you would expect. It's got a theming system that is customizable, but it comes with kind of a nice core set of very traditional, I'd say, developer-friendly themes. There's one based on Xcode, one based on GitHub. I forget, there's at least 3 or 4 others as well. And there's some pretty good ones in there that, or you can make your own and import them. There's also support for multiple cursors, which can be really handy for things like find and replace. There is full Markdown syntax support. There's even JavaScript automation built into this thing, which is interesting because it also supports shortcuts on the Mac. And it does something that's very much like Rogue Amoeba, like Audio Hijack by Rogue Amoeba, where instead of having a very extensive list of actions in shortcuts for the Mac, it relies on users using this JavaScript automation to extend what is possible with the existing shortcuts integrations, which, I haven't really found myself needing to use shortcuts for this a lot. But if you were using this more as a full-time regular text editor, you could use the shortcuts integrations to do things like prepend or append to your documents or create templates and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love this app. I'm so happy that you picked.
Good. I didn't know that I didn't know if you had tried this before.
Oh yeah, it's what I use on my Mac to edit your drafts.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought you were still.
Yeah. You turned me onto it. You recommended it to me, yeah?
I forgot that I told you about this one because before this I was using Typewriter. That's like a secondary pick on this one. Typewriter is quite good as well. But this app also has Pandoc support built into its export feature, which means Pandoc is a command line tool for converting between different kinds of text formats. And what that means is you can take your Markdown file and turn it into a rich text document or a Word document or a PDF, all that stuff, HTML, for instance. It's pretty handy that way. So it can kind of be used even as just kind of like a text conversion tool, if nothing else, if you want to have kind of a front-end UI for your text conversion instead of going to the command line for that stuff.
Yeah, well, I love this app. It's like, I think it's the best tool if you want to edit Markdown documents on a Mac.
And it gets updated a lot too. I'm really, constantly getting new updates.
Yeah. All right, John, my second pick for this fun, classic summer episode of App Stories. I mean, I'm literally leaving for vacation tomorrow.
Yes, this is tomorrow.
This is peak summer episode of App Stories. So this app which is really not just an app, it's more like a system. You're going to hear me talking about this I honestly feel like I've been talking to John about this. This is like the next few months of my content. Sort of
It is.
what I'll be working on. I don't want to say my new obsession because like that makes me sound like a crazy person, which I don't think I am. But
The last couple of weeks, Federico, I don't know. Maybe.
well, it was for the greater good. Okay?
It was. Well, I feel that you've hit kind of a more level-headed, calm period in the aftermath of your light strip obsession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that. Obviously, we've been talking about the light strip and everything. So my pick is Home Assistant. Okay, Home Assistant. Again, you're gonna hear me talking. You're gonna see me talking about this for the next few months. There will be content on Mac Stories. There will be content on the club. I think I'm gonna do some Automation Academy classes about this because it's that whole section is in need of a refresh. This is part of a few things that John and I have been talking about for the club, but that's a different conversation that we'll have at some point this fall. So Home Assistant, I'm having so much fun rethinking and sort of advancing my home automation setup in a way that I didn't think it was possible. And I should have paid attention to this stuff years ago, and I didn't. And the best way to think about this is it's not something that replaces HomeKit, at least for me. Now, I know that Home Assistant is a HomeKit replacement for a lot of people. And I know that there are a lot of folks out there who intentionally do not buy HomeKit certified hardware because they believe, proprietary standards are evil and you should just buy open source hardware and sort of run your own Arduino board and do stuff like that. I'm not that type of user, and that's not the kind of home automation I like. I see Home Assistant as a complement to HomeKit, which, let's face it, I prefer HomeKit, right? From a design perspective, from a usability perspective, I love controlling my home automation stuff from Control Center, from Siri, and from shortcuts. Like from a usability perspective, nothing beats HomeKit in my opinion. But with Home Assistant, I can integrate a lot of additional features that HomeKit doesn't give me, and so it becomes this sort of little operating system on the side that allows me to go deeper. For example, and again, I'm going to get a lot deeper on all of this at some point later this year once I'm done with the iOS and iPadOS 17 review. But to give you some examples right now, Home Assistant has an integration with the Apple TV. So once you install Home Assistant on your network, we can talk about this. I have it running in a virtual machine on a Mac Mini. There are other ways to do it. It automatically discovered my Apple TV on the same Wi-Fi network. You follow a bunch of prompts, you enter a bunch of PIN codes, and later the Apple TV shows up as a device in your Home Assistant installation. One of the things that Home Assistant lets you do that HomeKit doesn't let you do is create automations with triggers based on what happens on the Apple TV. And so immediately, this is like a fantastic idea because something that I was able to do was, okay, if my Apple TV starts playing something, I want a specific color of the living room lights to turn on. Here, you can see immediately there are three things that HomeKit doesn't let me do. The first one, in HomeKit, there's no trigger for the Apple TV starts playing something. And literally, it can be anything. Just Apple TV starts playing a video. All right, the media player kicks in full screen.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to me that this is not a trigger.
But they don't have it. So, feature number one: Apple TV starts playing something. I have these Hue ceiling lights, and I want a specific Philips Hue scene to turn on. Now the Philips
which you also can't do.
Exactly. Now the Philips Hue scenes, they don't appear in HomeKit. And they don't have, or at least the last time I tried it, there was no shortcuts action to use a Philips Hue scene. And even if there was, I believe you cannot include it in a HomeKit automation. So that was a problem. So that's feature number two. Home Assistant lets me turn on a Philips Hue scene. But the thing is, before I can enable that Philips Hue scene, the living room light needs to be on. And that's controlled by a physical switch in the wall.
Right.
But because my home is wired with KNX, which is a home automation standard that I can control from my phone, Home Assistant lets me do essentially two actions in the same automation, which is Apple TV starts playing something, then turn on the switch so the light turns on, delay the next action by 1 second because they have a delay action, then enable the Philips Hue scene. So whenever something starts playing on the Apple TV, my blue and purple scene, that's the name of the scene, in the living room turns on. And that's just one very simple example of the kind of stuff you can do.
It's another good example of how another wild limitation of home automations is that you can't do two things.
No, you can just do one, which is wild. You got to create a scene if you want to have multiple actions. And I recently discovered that, for example, some devices, like I have a water control device for the sprinklers on my balcony now. And that water control device does not appear when you're creating an automation in the Home app by Apple. Like the water, it just doesn't show up in the list of actions. But get this, you're going to love this, John. It shows up if you're using a third-party app like Eve or what's the name of the other one?
Home Plus.
Home Plus. It shows up there.
6,
So those actions, they show up there, but they don't show up in the Home app, which is wild. Yeah. So Home Assistant, they have an iPhone app. And the last thing I'll say is this. They have an API. They have a REST API that allows you to put together your advanced scripts or shortcuts that talk directly to the API of your Home Assistant server running inside your home. Mine is running on a local IP address in my home. But they also have native shortcuts actions that expose all the parts of the API. So you can, right now, you can open shortcuts. You have Home Assistant installed. You can just use one of the Home Assistant actions. And in fact, I already have one that toggles the light in the kitchen on and off.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That sounds really great. I want to ask you a couple of things, I guess. One is, have you looked at this Home Assistant Yellow thing, which is essentially a Raspberry Pi running a server as opposed... What do you think of that?
That was a crowdfunding project. I really haven't looked into that, but I will say you should look into it because installing the Debian virtual machine on my Mac Mini, it was a nightmare. So if you can get
this is why I started looking at this thing.
My recommendation,
it's like $125.
Yeah, my recommendation would be it's like a branded Raspberry Pi set up with I think if you can get a Linux machine that is pre-configured for Home Assistant and you don't have to dabble with like installing Bluetooth drivers and stuff like that, you should probably get it and not do what I did. But now I did it. So the sunk costs for me are all over the place at the moment. But that's
they are. But I mean, even like you had to buy that Bluetooth adapter with the long antennas, and even that that goes halfway towards buying one of these Home Assistant Yellow things. Yeah. I've been looking at it a little bit, and it's something that I might try. And particularly because, as you said, it supports a lot of non-HomeKit devices. And it just so happens, as I was thinking about this and reading some of the things you've written about it recently, I've got a garage door opener that is not HomeKit enabled. It just came with the house, and it has an app. But the app is literally nothing but a giant button that lets me open and close the garage.
Perfect.
And sends me notifications when the door goes up and down. And this would be perfect for, I'd be able to do all kinds of different automations, like just even if it was nothing but check the door and see whether the state is open or shut in the evening when the sun goes down, just to make sure nobody left it open because we can't, see it out the window or anything. So there's that. And then also I have thermostats, which, because of the hardware I have for heating and cooling my house, aren't HomeKit compatible. I couldn't get HomeKit compatible once. And so that has a better app by Honeywell. And I do use that app from time to time to set up schedules and things for like the air conditioning coming on. But I have no way to connect it to anything that resembles, an automation. So those are two big reasons right there, because those are two of the bigger pieces of my home setup, at least my tech home set, that aren't automated at this point.
Well, yeah, think about it, but maybe you'll follow my tutorials. And
I'm waiting for a little help from you, Federico,
right.
And I'm also putting it on hold a little bit until I've got this Mac OS review out of the way, because I am not in a position being able to spend that time just yet. But
good idea. Again, don't do what I did, but
I've got to finish Zelda too. I mean, I've got priorities. All right, Federico. Well, that's a good episode for this week. You can find the two of us over at macstories.net. I want to thank our sponsor for this episode. That's Fitbod. We're on Instagram, where Federico is at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.